Heidi ho, boys and girls. Today we are talking about gear. We are talking about plate carriers versus web gear, LBVs versus chest rigs versus belt kit. I get asked this question all the time by many, many people. So we're going to talk about it today. First and foremost, gear doesn't matter. This question is dumb. Just go train, right? I will locate, close with, and destroy on the enemy with JanSport. I mean, nylon gear is nice. I have nylon gear. We'll talk about that today, but it's not important. You can make any set of nylon gear work for just about any mission set. There are very few situations where you're like, I'm doing this, therefore that piece of gear will not work for me. All right, you've got to carry ammo and you've got to carry water. If you can carry ammo and water, your gear will work. Water. All right. To start us off, we're going to talk about plate carriers, right? Assumed with plates versus web gear, meaning no armor. Okay. Everybody thinks that the main focus here is that I've added weight because I'm carrying plates. The weight isn't what matters. What matters is the mobility that those hard plates give and they restrict, right? Because I have a stiff piece of ceramic on my body and it's thick, I now have a harder time moving. So every time I do anything, I have to use more force, more energy over and over and over and over again, right? 12 hours, 24 hours of using more energy every time I bend over, every time I lean to the side, every time I try and reach around for my rifle. Reach around. Right? So that's what makes you more tired, not the fact that you're carrying 10 more pounds of gear. Right. 40 versus 50-pound fighting load is not a big deal. Doesn't matter. You're not going to really notice that difference. What you're going to notice is that it's harder to move around in those plates. You're also going to notice that they ventilate body heat way less, right? One of human superpowers is the fact that we can ventilate body heat everywhere, right? The original man hunted before he had weapons by just running animals down because we're able to dissipate our body heat better than animals. So they will pass out with a heat stroke before we will. Cool. So when you put all this armor on, front plates, back plates, side plates, your body heat can no longer dissipate. So it's locking all of that heat in. So your body is having to work even harder to maintain proper core temperature. So it's the reduced mobility and it's the reduced ability for you to ventilate your body heat that is actually what makes the energy cost for armor be more, not the fact that it weighs a couple more pounds, right? You could have a rifleman in a plate carrier and then a machine gunner in web gear that have the same weight of a loadout, but that rifleman is going to get wore out faster than that machine gunner because the machine gunner is going to be able to ventilate his body heat and all of his micro movements and functions are going to be less taxing on his body. The other thing that matters with plates, framed, like large framed rucksacks, mountain packs, whatever you want to call them, right? They don't interact well. Where that lumbar support lands typically is like right on the edge of your plate, your back plate. And it causes everything, right? You got to either like leave the pack super high and do your plate carrier on the back super low so the front super high, it's choking you out, or drag your pack super low so you're having to have all this extra back pressure the whole time. It's probably going to sit cattywampus in some way, cause you to rub a bunch of hot spots in your body. I know from personal experience. Thank you, Uncle Sam, for making me do stupid shit. So, yeah. So, if you have to wear a rucksack, because that's the amount of shit you have to carry, probably try not to wear a plate carrier because it's going to make your life hell. Again, not because the plate weighs 5 extra pounds, but because of how it's causing everything else to interact with yourself. A lot of times, if you have a full combat loadout or whatever, and you have to ruck 10, 15 miles, you'll take your plate and plate carrier and put it in your pack and then walk with your belt or your chest rig and your ruck, right? So you're still carrying the weight. There's no weight savings. It's just the things fit to your body better. All right. On the civilian end of things, web gear is cheap because plates are expensive, right? If I have web gear that doesn't accept plates, then I don't have to spend several $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is on a set of plates. So, if plates are outside of the budget, then there's no reason to even worry about it. That could be the end of the story right there. All right. When to wear plates versus when not to wear plates, right? The more likely I am to get shot, the more likely I am to wear plates on that operation, okay? And not only that, right? Like a recon operation, you can kind of get away with not wearing plates because even if I make contact, my whole goal is to break contact immediately and leave. I do not want a gunfight on a recon operation. And we're probably gone longer, we want mobility. So we'll wear just a chest rig or battle belt or whatever our web gear, right? We'll wear our web gear. If I'm going to do a direct action raid, then not only am I like 100% likely to get in a gunfight, but I'm going to be up in a gunfight for a while. I'm going there, getting in a gunfight, staying there to do something, and then leaving. So I definitely want body armor on. I'm going to be like, stay getting shot at for a while. I'm going to want armor. All right. How much armor do I want? Do I want plates? Do I want side plates? Do I want soft armor inserts? Do I want throat protection, groin protection, shoulder protection, etc., 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 right? Generally speaking, the closer the fight, right? So the closer I am to the enemy, the more CQB we're doing, and the more likely that explosives are to be used, the more armor I want. Why is that? Well, because explosives and being super close to somebody reduces my ability to use mobility and cover, right? If I am 5 feet from somebody in a gunfight, I cannot move away from them to avoid getting shot, and I cannot hide to avoid getting shot. I'm just standing in the open, shooting at them while they shoot at me. So I'm going to want as much armor on as I can. Same concept goes for if somebody's throwing a bunch of frag grenades at me or arty shells at me. There's not a lot of maneuverability or cover that I can get to hide from that, and there's going to be a bunch of fragmentation flying through the air. So the more armor I can have covering me up, the better. Right? Now, if I'm planning on getting in a gunfight, but I'm going to be in the support by fire position, and I'm going to be no closer than 300 yards from the enemy, well, I probably don't need a bunch of, shoulder pads and side sappies and groin protection and all this other stuff, right? I just want to worry about catching a stray round to the chest while I'm in my fighting position. Wonderful. All right, as well as I've already touched, if you have to carry a ruck a long way, you're probably not going to want to wear your plate carrier while you're carrying that ruck that distance. So that is plates versus web gear. Now we're going to talk about all the different types of web gear. Load-bearing vests, LBVs. LBVs hold lots of gear, evenly dispersed across your whole body, your front, your back, your sides, high on your chest, low on your belly. So they'll carry a lot of gear, and they'll carry it very well. Most of the time, they're split front. Split front rigs are great for being in the prone a lot of times. If you're going to integrate a LBV with plate carrier, you're going to have to wear it, put your plate carrier on, and then extend the sizing of your LBV and wear it over your plate carrier. Generally speaking, these integrate with armor the worst out of all the web gear. All right, then we have chest rigs. Chest rigs could be micro rigs with just three mags up front. They could be split front chest rigs. Again, that's great for using if you're going to be in the prone all day long. And then there's the more Rhodesian style chest rigs that are typically larger, both around the body and carry more gear, double stack or triple stack layered of stuff thick. So chest rigs, even those Rhodesian rigs, typically can't carry all the gear that you'd want them to carry. However, the gear that you do put in your chest rig, it keeps it very handy, very up close, right where you can get it. Right, it's a great place to put optics. Put it there. Hunters, even, they now have the Bino chest rig because it's a wonderful place to put stuff. Admin things, they're all right there. You can get to them, put them back. It's a nice place to pull mags out. We'll get to belts in a second. I know a lot of dudes love reloading from the belt. I like reloading from my chest personally. It feels very nice, all right where I can get it. All right. Typically, when you integrate with plate carrier, your chest rig, if you're going to use that, will just clip in and or Velcro onto the front of your plate carrier and be like your front placard. Typically, the connection there, integration is pretty seamless. Also, chest rigs work very well with belt kits, which is what we're talking about next. Belt kits. So we could be talking about kind of like a duty belt, like a cop, a law enforcement officer would wear, or the more standardized, thanks to Instagram, special forces or range belt, right? That has your pistol, 2 pistol reloads, 1 rifle mag reload, and like a dump pouch and some medical on it. And then we have the sustainment style belts, that like the old Alice style of gear, or what a lot of the Europeans and the Russians and the Australians do as well, how they carry their gear, right, on a heavy sustainment, lots of big pouches on a suspender system right around the waistline. Typically those European systems are just a little bit higher than your actual waistline, but they do come with adjustability most times. You can drop them down and carry them on your actual waistline if you'd like. All right. First and foremost, belt kits suck if you're in vehicles a lot. If you're getting in and out of a car or riding in a car all the time, it fucking sucks to have a bunch of shit on your belt line. Belt kits allow for great ventilation, right? So plate carriers are the worst because there's a bunch of stuff on the front, back, and the sides, and there's like thick, hard barriers. It's not even like nylon stuff that you can breathe through. Belt kit is the opposite. There's either nothing or just some straps, and they allow maximum amounts of ventilation. In the exact opposite scenario, they work really good with cold weather gear. You can usually have good integration with heavier coats and stuff like that, and putting the different layers on and off comparatively to plate carriers and chest rigs. And you can typically carry a pretty large amount of gear fairly comfortably. I guess it's kind of a coin's toss whether you think LBV or belt kit can carry more gear if we're talking about that sustainment belt kit. And belt kits do work great with plate carriers and chest rigs, right? If you're going to wear a plate carrier with a belt kit, same as a chest rig, your belt kit's on, make sure it's at the waistline, and then you throw whatever's going to be on your torso over the top, whether that's a plate carrier or a chest rig. General rule of thumb, on top of all of this that I've said, you're going to have a camelback on as well, right? So typically you're going to have 6 to 8 mags. I say 8 mags for the civilian unsupported infantry perspective. You're going to have 1 or 2 quarts of water, and then you're going to have your 2 or 3 liter camelback. Probably should have some medical and a radio on you as well, right? So that's the stuff you have to carry in whatever nylon gear you select, as well as whatever other nooks and crannies and odds and ends you choose to take with you. I guess you don't take nooks and crannies with you, huh? Your nooks and crannies are where you put your odds and ends. Any hoozles. Belts and split rigs, like split front chest rigs and LBVs, work great if you're going to be in the prone all day. Although I have never used a split front rig professionally, or very rarely do I exclusively use a belt kit. And I don't have any problem being in the prone. When you get in the prone, if you have a plate carrier or chest rig, just scoot your body back a little bit, and it goes from kind of your belly up to the top of your chest, and you can lay your belly flat on the ground. Very comfortable, very low, no big deal. But if you're going to be if your job is to lay flat on your belly all day long every day, you probably do want to look at a belt kit and or a split rig. In general, you're going to carry a lot of stuff, not a little. So if your plan is that you're going to carry a small amount of things, if and whenever you have to actually enact that plan, you're probably going to have to carry a lot of things. So plan for that now. Not a little, a lot. A lot of stuff. 8 mags, 2 quarts of water, medical, radio, admin, optics, right? So you should have NVGs and or thermal, and if you don't, probably carry in some sort of binoculars, some sort of optical solution on your body as well. Stuff and things. You have to carry it. Have pouches for it. All right. When do we want to do our little survival sustainment fighting loadout, right? When we want to have our butt pack full of a bunch of stuff like chows and tarps and things, and like pots and pans and a jet boil, all in our fighting load. When we want to push the times and logistical limitations of our fighting load, but we're not planning on resting at any point, right? So I'm going out and I'm conducting a super extended operation, and I'm not going to stop at any point. I'm going to be doing stuff for over 24, 36, possibly even 48 hours. So I'm going to have to carry some more things, more water, more food, more batteries, and I need to put those things in a pouch somewhere, but I don't want to carry so much stuff that I have another pack, even an assault pack that has other straps and is weighing me down, right? So I want to minimize that. I could carry a butt pack with some more sustainment stuff in it. The other scenario is if you're doing some sort of patrol base or whatever the case is, operations, and whenever you're leaving your ruck, your gear, your bedding behind to go out on a patrol, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to come back to that stuff, right? That stuff might get blown up. It might get compromised and they don't grab it on their way out. You might get cut off from it for multiple days. So you need to have the bare minimums to not freeze to death or starve to death or die of dehydration if that happens and you become separated from your main gear. Neither of those scenarios that I just said are going to be, in my opinion, common for the citizen. So I don't think for the average person, you probably should have a fighting load with a whole bunch of survival stuff in it, right? Have some water tabs, have a survival whistle and a signal mirror, have a couple Cliff Bars or whatever maybe. Probably keep a lighter in your pocket, but you don't need a whole butt pack full of different emergency gears just to go do a basic gunfight. All right. How I did things in the military, which is pretty similar to how my gear is set up now. I had a plate carrier that was worn the majority of the time because the majority of the time it's pretty likely that I'm going to get shot at. If I'm going to do anything super crazy, we might plus up on that armor. And if I'm going to be, like I said, doing a reconnaissance patrol or anything like that, where I'm not trying to get in a gunfight at all, and I'm going to be doing a ton of walking, especially if it's going to be with a heavy externally framed pack, then I probably will go ahead and drop down to my web gear. The only time I don't run a belt, for the most part, is if I'm in a vehicle. If I'm not in a vehicle, I will run a belt, right? And that also makes sense. If I'm not in a vehicle, then I have to carry all of my stuff with me all the time. I need more pockets and space to carry more things. If I'm attached to a vehicle, theoretically, I'm never going to travel more than a few hundred yards from that vehicle, so I can keep a bunch of shit in that vehicle and always come back to it and get more stuff and go back out, or call it and have it come to me so I can get my shit. So you have a lot more ability to use that vehicle like a storage locker. So it's okay to carry less gear physically on your body, which allows me then to drop that belt, which makes getting in that vehicle a lot more comfortable. Right. So unless I'm in a vehicle, I have a belt. Unless I'm walking an extremely long distance with a low percentage chance of getting shot at, I'm going to want a plate carrier. Yep. And I like to run a chest rig, right? I like to run a chest rig and a plate carrier with a belt The reason I like to do that is because it allows me to carry more gear than any other option, right? Chest rig plus belt or plate carrier plus belt gives me the most molly and most pouches for stuff comparatively to any other gear setup. And then if I'm just doing any sort of security work or manual labor around the base or whatever, I can always drop down to just that belt, and it absolutely can carry the bare minimum I need for a fighting load while giving me the maximum amount of mobility and ventilation. So, that is gear. That is how I run my gear, and you can use this information to decide how you should run your gear. Gear is largely a personal choice and not a big deal. So, stop stressing about it. Stop buying 6 chest rigs. Just buy something and run it. After running it for a while, if you find you want to try something else for an actual reason, that's okay. But avoid consumerism. You can make a JanSport work, so you definitely don't need $2,000 worth of chest rigs. This is my TED Talk on gear. Thank you, everybody.